Slander is fun, but at what cost? Where do we draw the line between slander, jokes, and just media illiteracy? When you refer to a character and their flaws, do you care about where they come from? What point does it stop being a joke? And what point does it cause to be problematic? Absolutely disrupting the image that was showcased for the character. This ideology, this question I keep asking myself, primarily comes from the way I see people react to JJK characters, whether it be Megumi, Sukuna, even Gojo. Some people see them as pretty faces. Some people dropped JJK after Gojo died. Some people decided straight up that they didn't enjoy the direction that characters were taken, despite being the intention from the beginning. Just because you don't like the way something is written doesn't mean it's poorly written. Now, this does not mean that the media that you're taking in doesn't have flaws. Of course it does. Most media do. But this issue that people be explaining or coming over and insulting or misinterpreting seems deliberate. And I just want to talk about it. So we're going to do that.
Had a nigga think they want to run away with my gut feeling it, take it to the bank. That nigga grabbed my ass, I told his ass to take it to the paint. Nigga won't know it ain't getting no easy. I'm just trying to.
Alright, so first order of business, we're going to talk about Megumi. Now, me personally, Megumi used to be my favorite character, but because of the lack of drive that he had to, get up out of the darkness is what skewed my perception of him. And I would not lie, I was part of those people who would just consistently slander him without actually giving a shit. But we're gonna talk about why this or Megumi's reaction was somewhat justified. Number one, Yorozu took his sister's body. Game. Number one, Megumi's initial goal for becoming a Jujutsu sorcerer is not to protect others per se, but to help pay for his sister's way. His sister was sick and in desperate need of, constant medical attention. I believe she was sick because she was cursed or some shit like that, right? So Megumi has his entire world skewed in that one moment upon finding out that Yorozu took his sister's body. And then on top of that, he gets his body snatched, and in his body, technically by his hands, his sister dies and his master dies. Well, sensei dies. The help of his body, plenty of other people fell victim to Sukuna. Now, you can criticize him and be like, if you did not wake up or get up or resist like you initially did, these deaths would not happen. And you're not wrong, right? But you have to understand that Megumi's spirit was broken. The whole point of cleansing the body felt like surrounding it with evil and then immediately going out seeking Yorozu and killing her was to break Megumi's spirit. He knows Megumi. He's in his body. He has his memories, what he deeply desires. His entire worldview is at Sukuna's fingertips, so he knows exactly what buttons to push. Megumi is the perfect representation of depression. And how people reacted to it is exactly how people, especially in the modern age, view depression. People have this misconception of Hikari that he's dumb. And I'm gonna quickly address that real quick, because it's not hard to debunk. We have to take into account that the reason why his test scores are so low is more or less likely because he's not even in school. He got suspended. By the time Hikari even meets Yuji, this is well after he's been suspended. Considering Hikari was suspended before Itadori came to school, Jujutsu High, we would have to assume that whatever test he was taking was something he didn't really see the value of, especially since he hasn't been in school. The whole thing where the reason why Hikari is smarter than you think is because of not only how he fights and how adaptable he is, but because during his fight with Kashimo, he's able to point out the chemical reaction or chemical changes that is taking place in real time. A man who isn't smart or isn't educationally in tune, doesn't know the way electricity interacts with water, doesn't know the way it could dictate the outcome of a fight, the overall risk factor of what he could do or what he should do in the next moment. Hikari is not dumb, but he doesn't take the education system seriously. He sees no point in it. He has money. He has a girl. He doesn't need to be associated with, tests and all that. He sees no point in it. And if I were him, I probably wouldn't either. Hikari is capable of beating people with odds constantly stacked against him, holding off whenever he can in order to guarantee some sort of a victory. Now we got Sukuna. Sukuna and Yuji are fundamentally opposites of the same coin. They are virtually the same person, just done differently. Sukuna didn't have no one, so he turned out the way he was. Yuji did have someone, so he turned out the way he is now. Their ideologies oppose each other. They are literally, not figuratively, but literally direct opposites. Sukuna was gifted, but he was also educated. He kept going, and he became the strongest. Yuji by no means was gifted outside of what he was born into. He was more durable, he was more stronger, he was faster than most, for the sole purpose of being Sukuna's vessel. It was the death paintings and Sukuna's imprint that led to the ability that he has now, how compatible he is with being cursed and human. Sukuna doesn't chase pleasure. He just enjoys what he can as it comes to him. Sukuna wasn't given anything to believe in. He didn't grow up with anyone. You can argue Urame was there for him, but their relationship was very different. He was lonely at the top and couldn't relate to anyone. Gojo, on the other hand, despite being lonely, always was grounded with his friends. Things changed when Toji arrived, but even as a sensei, he had people who he could rely on. Students, genuine interaction. They may not understand what it feels like to be the strongest yet or at all, but they were still people he could regard as friends, maybe even family. Yuji sees the value of life, whereas Sukuna does not. In their domain altercation, Yuji is speaking to Sukuna through pity. He feels bad for him. The fact that he isn't able to view the beauty of life, the beauty of having a genuine relationship. In that moment, Sukuna was shocked, disrespected even. He couldn't feel anything but anger because Sukuna, despite everything, understands that he's right. Losing to Yuji in the fashion that he did kinda made him question things. Like, in the middle of fighting Yuji, he began to question things. Yuji is what Sukuna could have been. Whenever you ask Sukuna a question, he always seems to have an answer. Well, he is the strongest after all. But is he though? Just because you win every battle doesn't mean that you win every battle. Because the greatest battle that you ever have to fight is the one with yourself. What purpose does Sukuna serve? He's a calamity because he, imposes on the natural order of life. He destroys, he takes. It gives him temporary pleasure, but nothing ever sticks. Sukuna really always had a choice whether or not he could have been a good person, whether or not he could have followed this ideology of admiring life, but he just didn't understand it. He couldn't comprehend it. He was in his own head, in his own way for too long. Now he has to die by it, which is why, if anything, he could have always tried again. Now, lastly, I want to talk about Gojo. He's more than just a pretty face. I think we all know that. He's a man confident but with insecurity. He doesn't know what he's getting into. Despite his training, despite the preparation, he's still fighting Sukuna, someone else that was regarded to be the strongest. If he were to fall, he wasn't sure that Yuta's plan was going to be enough to take down Sukuna. Remember, Sukuna is a different type of beast. Gojo almost beat him before transforming. Things would have obviously ended up just differently. Sukuna wouldn't have been able to transform and Gojo would still be alive. But because he won, he got cocky, got in his own head again, and that led to him dying for real this time. I admire Gojo because despite everything, he's always risen to the occasion. He's pro-life. Someone who he was supposed to execute is the same person sitting right next to him. He's sharing information, going through everything that's on his mind. The possibility that he might die, that things may go awry, that he confides and believes that Yuji will be the one to take down Sukuna if he were to fall. He's counting on him, allowing Yuji to peer into his thought process, to understand and to see things from his perspective, because despite everything, despite being the strongest, he's still human. Gojo, despite everything, is a good person. He always was, and at his lowest point, he bounced back from it, unlike Geto, who, well, went off the deep end. It's kinda ironic how Gojo, ready to take out the entire room filled with people who, disregarded Amani's life, was able to bounce back, but Geto, well, again, fell off the deep end. The grim reality of Gojo is that he's just a weapon. A man born with the sole purpose to change the world, to be used as a weapon by the Jujutsu Society. Oh my god! What I'm trying to say, again, is that Gojo's whole purpose is to be a weapon, to be used by the Jujutsu Society. Even in his final moments, his body wasn't able to rest because he offered it, was used to Yuta. Yuta took over his body to use it as a weapon against Sukuna, firing hollow purples, using domain expansion after domain expansion until he physically couldn't do it anymore, falling over, unable to complete the mission at hand. Then Yuji comes in to deliver the final blows. I wanted to bring up Gojo's views on society because it kind of reinforces this ideology that he is more than just a pretty face. I feel like people see him and think that there's not much to him, but he's different. He's complex. He's not just this happy-go-lucky type of guy. He wants to fundamentally change Jujutsu Society, but he knows that if he were to kill the higher-ups at any point in time, they'll just be replaced, and it'll keep happening, and we don't know when it'll stop happening, which is why he chose to educate the new generation. That way when these higher ups are gone, their perception of power, jujutsu, and the will to live, learn, and admire life, to protect life, will carry after him. But that's all I wanted to say. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll be catching y'all later. Deuces.